Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. This week, we look at a countertop that's having a little trouble. You know, particle boards use often under plastic laminate countertops, but if it gets a little wet or maybe a little too close to that dishwasher, things can happen, but we have a solution for it. Now, did you just build a pressure-treated fence and you go, okay, that's done, it's pressure-treated, I don't have to do anything more? Well, if you want it to last and you want it to continue looking good, we have a few suggestions for you there. You know, if you're in the shower and you have low water pressure, it is not a fun shower. How to increase that water pressure? Can you do it reasonably? We have a few tips on that. And speaking of tips, we've got the simplest and easiest way to install ceramic tile in your bathroom or kitchen. We'll share that with you in just a moment. What about a simple solution, Joe?
I've got a really simple way to remove rust from garden tools. You know, this time of year, most people are pulling out their garden tools after a long winter in the garage and the shed, and typically they're either dirty or really rusted. So I've got a quick tip on getting that rust off the tools.
Well, if I say myself, we've got some great information for you, so let's get started. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Barbara's on the line. We're very interested, Barbara, in hearing about your countertop issue. Welcome to the show. Tell us all about what's happening at your house.
Hi, Danny. Thank you so much. Well, I noticed when I was opening up my dishwasher that on the top of the door there was little flakes of wood. I said, And then when I opened the door, of course, everything went down. So I looked at the under part of the countertop, and it's all flaking off. It looks like it's shredded, and it just keeps coming off. And I'm like, oh, goodness, what do I put on this to keep it from falling into my dishes?
Hey, Barbara, I assume this is a plastic laminate countertop?
Yes, it is. Yeah, on the bottom is flakeboard. It's
right. Yep.
a plastic top.
Well, I'll tell you, this exact same thing happened to me on my very first house that I bought, and it was a post-form countertop, which was, laminate, and it had the little lip that came out, had the, exact same material that you're talking about, and the exact same thing that, I guess opening up the dishwasher and that hot, steamy air going right up into there. I'll tell you what I did, and it worked for many, many years. Matter of fact, it's still working right now. I have that house I rent out, but still is in great shape. I basically just almost like wiped down as much as I could. I didn't do any real sanding underneath that lip of that, but I just basically tried to get as much of it as I could off in terms of the dust and any of the bigger flakes. Then I took just some polyurethane. This was done several years ago when they didn't have the water-based polyurethane, which would work perfectly well. Then I took a brush and I put about 3 coats. Now this is under it where you're not going to see it. I opened the dishwasher door and put a little some paper towels there where it wouldn't drip on it. And then I just took a brush and I went back and forth and I coated that, which basically is encapsulating that flake board or the particle board that's there. And I never had any more problem with it. I mean, I almost waited too late because it has did cause a fair amount of water damage there. But after I put about 3 coats on that, I never had another issue with it. That may be all that you need to do on yours.
Okay. Alrighty, I will give that a try.
Any other thoughts on that, Joe? Because that is a problem that a lot of people deal with.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest too, Barbara, is either scrape it or sand it smooth and apply several coats of, and be sure to use exterior grade polyurethane, marine varnish, something like that.
Okay.
And you can't put too many coats on. This particle board's like a sponge, it's going to absorb most of it. If you had waited too long and a lot of the wood chips from the particle board were missing, then I would recommend filling all that with a exterior grade wood putty or a Bondo or something like that, just to get a nice, smooth, flat surface, and then applying the polyurethane. But it sounds like you probably caught it early enough that just the polyurethane. And again, as Danny suggested, 3 or 4 coats. You can't put too many coats on. Let it dry in between coats and just keep applying it till it's not soaking up anymore. And that should, prevent it from deteriorating any longer.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I will definitely try that. I was at a loss. I was like, well, should I put duct tape on it? Yeah, no, that won't work.
No, the steam would The steam would take off the duct tape, too.
Exactly. Well, Barbara, thanks so much for being with us. Hope we've been able to provide you a solution for that.
Thank you so much. And Danny, we love the show. We watch you every Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. We love it.
Oh, well, I
love
appreciate that. Get ready. We've got a lot of new shows coming up and a lot of fun we're going to have over at Chelsea's Ranch Revival that we're going to do. She is working so hard on her house, and we're going to show everybody about it. We're going to do 5 or 6 episodes over there, so stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Hey, if you've thought about maybe putting a fire pit in your yard, even though as we're headed into the warmer time of the year, it's still a project that you could easily do over the summer, and a fire pit's really a great addition to almost any outdoor living area, but it's an especially good fit for a paver patio because it won't overheat the surface beneath the pit, which is a big concern if you have any kind of deck. But even if heat isn't an issue, you shouldn't build a stone fire pit directly on top of an existing paver patio because when it rains, the ashes and debris can wash right out from under the walls of the fire pit and across the patio. So what you want to do is to cut the fire pit down into the patio so any runoff just drains right into the soil beneath it. Now, here's how you do that. First, lay out the footprint of the fire pit in the spot where you want it to be located. And most fire pit kits includes a metal ring to line the opening. Now, you can use it as a guide to position the paver blocks so you can mark the outline of your fire pit on your patio. Then you'll want to remove all of the full blocks within that space and then begin cutting any of the partial blocks you have. Now, you can rent a concrete saw, which is probably the best way to do this job. And once you replace the cut pieces, you can have a fire pit that's shaped, the fire pit shaped hole in your patio, and you can begin stacking the blocks for the walls of the fire pit itself. And some of these kits are amazing that, some of them can go together in just a couple hours. And the great thing about this arrangement is that the tension of the surrounding pavers holds the bottom layer of the fire pit snugly in place, and then a little construction adhesive keeps all the other rows in position. And in no time, your fire pit is complete and ready to enjoy. Now, this tip brought to you by Exmark, the official mowers of the backyard life. And for more great ideas and inspiration for your outdoors, visit exmark.com/backyard. A lot of great videos, a lot of great, real simple do-it-yourself ideas available there. Again, that's exmark.com/backyard. Right now, we're going to go back to the phones and talk with Keith. Keith, welcome to the show, and tell us about this new fence you have and some of the ideas you have.
Yeah, hey, Danny and Joe. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Of course.
We recently had a house built down in Gulf Shores, and the builder put us up a 6-foot wood privacy fence. And I was wondering what we need to do to make the fence last as long as possible. Do we need to put a sealer on there of some sort? And if so, what would you suggest?
Okay. How old is it? How long's the fence been installed?
It's been since December.
Okay. Well, it's probably had plenty of time to kind of etch out in the weather and so forth because, you never know what kind of moisture content you have in a lot of the wood, especially treated wood, and even more so fence boards, because a lot of times they will store those outside or under partial cover. So having it up there for several months like you have now, 5 or 6 months, I'm sure it's ready for some sealer. And Keith, without a doubt, it will last a lot longer and look a lot better if you do apply some type of sealer or a stain. Now, if you like the way it looks in terms of the coloring, which I would imagine it still has a little bit of a green tint, maybe kind of a grayish look to it, and if it's kind of aged so far fairly evenly, and if you like that color, then the way to go is just a clear sealer that you're basically just sealing it just like it is and try to maintain that same look. Do you like the way it looks, or would you prefer a little bit of color?
No, we do. I kind of like the way it looks. We kind of noticed that some of the boards are starting to darken a little bit, and that's kind of what made us think about, putting a sealer on it or doing something kind of covered up. I like the way it looks now. Yeah. Love to maintain that look.
Sure. So, well, that's what I would do. I would just use a good quality clear sealer, an exterior type of sealer that you would use on decks or fencing. And then the key thing there, now you can put it on with a sprayer. You can put it on with the roller, but it's so important on outside treated wood like that to get one of those big 4-inch brushes. It doesn't have to be a good quality one, but just back brush. It doesn't take much. You're just basically going over it after you've applied it, and that's a good thing for a second person to do. One basically applying the material, and then another one, brushing it in to really back brush it and get it in those pores. Now, the other thing, I assume you share this with a neighbor, because a lot of times when you do this on one side, it'll kind of dribble around on the other side and not necessarily look that good. It's always better if the neighbor can maybe join in with you, or if they'll allow you to get on that side of the fence and go ahead and do both sides kind of at the same time. That way it locks it in. But here's an important one. Make sure that you're putting, even if you have to get a glove and a sponge, make sure you're sealing up the bottom edge of those boards, because that's where water can wick up into the wood, and that's usually where rot or damage or some of the deterioration will start first. But you want to really make sure you gobble a little of that sealer on the bottom of that as well.
That's good. Yeah, thankfully we have access to both sides of the fence right now. Our neighbors don't have a fence up on their side on one side, and the other neighbor actually decided not to tie into our fence. So we were able to, I'm able to get to all sides of the fence, so we plan on doing the whole thing.
Good.
So.
Well, very rarely do people do this, and I know as soon as I built my fence and it aged just a little bit, I put a coat of semi-transparent stain on it, and man, I'm so glad I did. I mean, it just continues to look good. It's holding up well. You'll be glad you did it, because fences aren't cheap, especially right now with these lumber prices. But
Absolutely. And so is there a stain that you would recommend, Danny, to use, or just any kind of stain?
There's one that I've used a lot called Flood. It's a Flood brand product. And it's available at a lot of the different stores. I'm not sure if Home Depot has it or not, but it's definitely one of the better ones. And also the one at Home Depot, Bear brand, is Consumer Reports rank it very high too for their clear sealer that's used on exteriors like that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That gives me a lot of information. Look forward to getting this knocked out and hopefully having this fence last us for a long time.
There you go. That's the way to do it. That's a proactive homeowner right there. Keith, we appreciate you being on the show this week, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Danny. You do the same.
All right, great. Joe, that's one of those things on, I think when I thinking of that with fencing, which is a pretty sizable project, I also think about how many people, I wonder what percentage of concrete slabs or driveways in the United States have sealer on it. I bet less than 5%.
Right. Oh, probably, I would guess might even be less than 5%. But with Keith, the most important thing is a lot of people think if it's a pressure-treated wood and I don't want to stain it, then I don't have to do anything to it. But that is absolutely not correct, and it's never been correct. You always have to provide, if nothing else, a clear wood preservative once a year, even if it is pressure-treated wood.
Time for our best new product of the week, brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Hardware for storing your garden hose has always been something of a utilitarian thing. You need it to be accessible and easy to use, but no one really wants to see it because usually not very attractive. Well, the Americana Configurable hose stand system is about to change all that. This system includes 6 different hose hangers in 2 different style posts, with or without a spigot. You can mount your hose right on the wall. You simply just choose one of your favorite hangers and mount it, or you can store the hose away from a fence or a wall and set the post in any of the hangers that mount to it just as easily as using the keyhole slots. Now, each hanger holds up to 125 feet of standard 5/8-inch hose, and the components are made with a combination of galvanized steel and powder-coated finishes, so they can really stand up to the elements. I saw videos of this recently. It is a very, very attractive way to store all of those hoses that you may be struggling with around your house. Now, your garden hose can be accessible and attractive. So for more information on this, you can head over to homedepot.com. And again, it's called Americana Configurable hose stand system, and pretty impressive. I'll tell you, wrestling with hoses, and that's one of those things. Joe, you never want to buy a cheap hose because you'll end up fussing with that thing and
wrestling with it.
And it gets stiff and it doesn't work. Boy, but you buy a good quality hose and take care of it. But now one thing that you don't want to do is to have it looped kind of on the ground a little bit and then run over the edge of it with your lawnmower.
Do you know somebody? Is there somebody who may have done that?
Someone that may have done that.
Someone may have done that.
So now the end of it's a little bit ragged looking, and just and you really can't.
Danny used to have a 100-foot hose. Now he has three 33-foot hoses.
Yeah, not a good thing. That was a good hose. That made me cry.
I just bought a brand new hose, and it's a 100-foot hose, and it completely overwhelmed my little hose reel rack that I had. So I may have to look into this configurable hose stand system. Sounds like something I could use.
Spring makes all things new, and the Home Depot makes all spring things possible. Start a garden, refinish a deck. Use our mobile app to put over 2 million products in the palm of your hand. Some ready for pickup in as little as 2 hours. Oh, and if you don't have the tools you need, our tool rental department does. Download our mobile app to get started. Bring on spring with innovative help from the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Hey, each and every week, Joe and I have such a great time talking to people all over the country. We get calls from one coast to the next, and every now and then we get a repeat caller, and that's what we have right now with Joe from Washington State. Joe, welcome back to the show.
We are so blessed to have you again, and we hate bothering you, but you're usually our last resort. Once we go through all of the videos, all your YouTubes, and so on, we know we're at wit's end, so we got to talk to you.
Yeah, last resort radio. That's us.
That's it.
We just want a straight answer.
Well, no, we're glad to do that, Joe, and hopefully we can help you with the challenge that you're having right now. Tell us about this bathroom renovation that you did.
Well, absolutely beautiful. When my wife's business hits a milestone, we do something big.
Good.
So we went really big this time. She found amazing stone. And what we did was we went from one shower head to a shower panel that has basically 8 shower heads. In addition, we added a steam room onto this.
Wow.
So our water pressure went from one shower head, which was great pressure, to 8 shower heads, which is very little pressure. We have great pressure in the whole rest of the house, about 85 PSI.
Okay.
Whoa,
good.
85?
In the house, coming in.
That's extremely high.
It is extremely high. But we find out we're at the bottom of a hill, so everybody in our area kind of has this. But our shower pressure is absolutely nothing. And we just we heard one of your podcasts, you talked about a global valve, but I'm not sure if this is applicable this time.
Well, when you have that kind of water pressure in your house, you don't need to boost all of it, but I think we need to zero in on this the 8 shower head panel that you have. So many times when you change out plumbing, but it seems like showers are the worst. A little bit of debris that gets in there from somewhere, or an older home, you might even have some deposits in there that get dislodged by just working on the pipes and so forth. Then you install this, and it's very possible that there could be a little debris that is in the lines. It's causing the water pressure issue. So a lot of times you can take the shower heads off, or the fittings that you have on the shower heads, if they have the removable nozzles on those, and then just turn the water on wide open and just let it kind of push a lot of that debris out of there, hopefully. But also, Joe, I know we've dealt with a lot of times where you have, I know in my shower at my house, there's actually a cartridge filter in there that mine got clogged up right at the very start, right as soon as the guys installed it, because a new house, you're going to have a little debris in those lines from here and there. But I wonder if Joe has a situation that debris is causing that lower water pressure.
Yeah, I was thinking that it sounded like a clogging issue to me as well, Joe. Normal water pressure, by the way, is for most houses are between 40 and 60 PSI. So at 80, you really have nice pressure. Too high a pressure can also create a problem. But if you had normal pressure with a single shower head and now you don't, it certainly sounds like it's this 8 shower head unit. But let me ask you, now there are 8 shower heads. Is the pressure normal at some of the 8 shower heads and lower on others, or all 8 have an issue?
No, all 8 have an issue. One of the shower heads is a Swiss shower, and that is easily 3 times bigger than the old shower head.
Oh, right.
So that just kind of drips out. And then the other one is a wand, which gives decent pressure, but nothing even like the old single shower head. And then there are 6 blowers that focus and you can put them all on at the same time, and we get very little water, or you can do one set at a time, and it's a little more. It is still nothing. And then these are all new pipes too. The people that install it put new water pipes and so on, because we're having some hammering and other things.
Sure.
So all that is fixed and all new pipes. And I'm just, it would be nice to have a great shower with great pressure.
Absolutely, especially since you have 80 PSI coming into the house. Well, it's the new pipes that you would think, well, it shouldn't be a clogging issue if they're all new pipes, but it's the new pipes that typically cause the clogging issue, because it's this little bit of debris. Some of it might have been from the manufacturing process that was already in the shower head unit itself that was never flushed out. And with new pipes, maybe there's a little bit of copper filings that are in the pipe, all the new pipe, maybe who knows what that's in the newer pipe, dust, dirt, anything like that. And it doesn't take much to clog it up. And as Danny suggested, if there's any way, if it's a faucet, you can just spin off the aerator, right, and flush out the aerator. This might be a little more difficult, but I just can't imagine it's not the new shower head unit, because why would you have gone from high pressure at the single shower head and now it's an issue? Pressure might be slightly less with 8 shower heads, but they should all be the same pressure.
I wonder if they have those little restrictor washers in there, Joe. You know how
for water flow?
Yeah, for
maybe?
Water flow that actually is there for restricting. And you might look for that when you take those nozzles off, Joe, to see if there's almost like a little washer that's restricting the flow of that water. And we're not supposed to tell you to take those out, but that is a way to
Understood.
Increase that pressure a little bit. But I think I should dig into that, turn the water off, and dig into those nozzles and see if you can't find some things. Just look closely for any little shavings that might be restricting it.
Got it. Didn't even think about that. We'll do, and I so appreciate it.
Hey, anytime, Joe, if you run across anything else, let us know. And if you find the solution to this and it works for you, let us know that as well, because I'm sure somebody's listening right now that's having a similar problem.
You got it. Thank you again.
Hey, I want to tell you about the Deitch Terrazzo giveaway. We've got another great one here to tell you about. Our friends at Deitch Coating are giving away a can of their newly revitalized Terrazzo product to 10 lucky recipients. What is it exactly? It's a decorative granite resurfacer, perfect for garage or basement floors. Also, you can use it on porches, pool decks, patios, and a whole lot more. And it's real easy just to roll on, and it gives the beauty of real granite right on your concrete. It's durable, all-weather resistant, and one can will cover up to 60 square feet. So you need to check it out, and you can find it at DeitchCoatings.com. That's DAICH Coatings.com. But first, head over to the Today's Homeowner website, todayshomeowner.com/giveaway to enter today. But don't drag your feet. The giveaway ends on May 23rd. You know, something we've talked about a lot about, Joe, here on the show is how someone will pick up a few tips, a few ideas. We hear we hear the wonderful word empowerment, that you empowered me to do this, that.
Well, I tell you what, inspired them to do things,
well,
right?
All of those adjectives can play into our great engineer, Dennis Gould. He is driving his wife, Barbara, crazy with all of the projects around the house. You know, some spouses are frustrated because they can't get their husbands to really get off the couch and get some work done. I think we've got the opposite situation here. She's like, slow down, you're making too much noise and you're spending too much on tools. But Dennis, you bought your first table saw, and I'm so happy to see you still have 10 fingers.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
I hear you got some feedback on patching rotten wood, something we hear a lot about here. And am I understanding correctly? You actually installed a wood ceiling in your dining room?
It's actually the living room.
Wow.
Put in an Armstrong plank ceiling, and I did it alone, which I would say definitely next time, the next ceilings I do,
don't do it alone.
And reaching overhead on any project like that for hours and hours and hours, you don't realize how heavy your arms can get when you're doing that.
One of the things that really was a saving grace was I bought a rolling scaffold.
Oh, there you go.
Metal Tech rolling scaffold. That's sort of the smallest one you can get. It's about 6 feet long. But man, that made it all real easy.
And you can actually, I don't know if you did this or not. You might have been getting down and unlocking the legs. But boy, if you get used to that, you can actually just grab the ceiling and move yourself all the way around the room like
that. No,
like
because
a spider.
When I would forget to lock the wheels, that was a pretty unsettling feeling.
Oh, yeah.
I'd start working and I'd go, whoops, and move about a foot up, and then I would get down and lock those wheels. But that was a really, really big.
But it turned out nice, though, didn't it?
It turned out great. Yeah. It really did. And the thing that took me the longest was getting to figure out my crown molding, with the miter saw.
Oh, yeah.
Because I did that backwards. But I made templates. After I got the cuts right, I made 2 little templates and just had them handy with arrows pointing in which way things should go. But
now you live in an older house, so inevitably on an older house you're going to have some rotten wood here and there, and most of the time it's better to remove those pieces of wood, replace them with something, a composite or cellular PVC that you won't have to worry about again. But sometimes there's just little spots on windows and that kind of thing. I heard you tried the Bondo trick.
Yeah.
But decided that wasn't for you.
Well, mainly because, 2 things. You have to really work fast with Bondo. Once you get that, you mix it up with the hardener.
Oh, yeah.
You have to really, really work fast. And my first attempt, the first little spot I fixed, that went pretty well. But then the second one, I either added too much of the stuff, but it hardened up much too quickly, and I had to throw away that little batch that I made. That's when I went to the internet and discovered an old product called Durham's Extra Hard Water Putty, I think it's called.
Yeah, water putty. Yeah,
Durham's Water Putty. Yeah. Man, that stuff is great.
And you know what? It's also, I'll have to admit, a lot easier to spread.
It is.
To get a smoother, it's easier to sand. And I'm telling you, you can put it on. Just take a quick break, and you can come back, and it's ready to sand.
It is. But by the same token, you can. It takes longer to harden certainly longer than Bondo, and I was real happy. And you can mix up little batch at a time in a little plastic cup, and just add water to it. No fumes. The Bondo fumes. I'm up on that scaffold with the Bondo fumes, and I'm thinking about my first grade teacher all of a sudden and ready to keel over. And but I really we were talking about that. I think you guys were talking about using fillers in the last segment, and that water putty. And you buy a can of it. I bought the big can, and it'll probably last me forever.
And not that expensive.
Not
either.
that expensive at all.
Yeah, so think about that water putty when you're doing any of the little things, because a lot of times, if you're working on the outside of your house or working inside of your house and you have a buildup of paint, and Joe, that can really be a challenge taking a disc sander or any sander, and especially if you have an older house and you may have 5 or 6 coats of paint, to try to feather all of that paint out. Sometimes you're just not going to get it feathered out completely, but you do what you can, make sure all of the loose paint is off of there, wipe it down, and boy, when you can skim that out with a 3-inch putty knife with that water putty, you're pretty much back to a nice smooth surface in order to be able to use it.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get down to at least a clean surface. Sometimes you don't have to remove all the paint. And if you're working on an older house, always do a lead test first, because you don't know how old this paint is, and if it has lead in it, you certainly don't want to be sanding on it. But that water and Durham's water putty, I think if you may not know exactly what it is, but everyone's probably seen the container. Looks like an oatmeal container, and it has the strongman on it, like from the circus.
I know it.
I think that logo is probably 80 years old.
Exactly.
So,
it's the same logo that they had in the very beginning.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
It's probably the same price, too.
It's been around, it's been around a long time. And the good thing about it, as Dennis discovered, if you buy it in a powder form like that, it lasts virtually, as long as you keep it sealed, it lasts forever. Yeah.
Now, Joe, you know how Dennis, of course, he's a brilliant audio engineer, but he will also play jokes on you. You know how he'll take little bits and pieces of our conversation,
right. Yes.
and then he'll kind of doctor them up a little bit. Yeah. It's like, I didn't say that, and it'll be, some things we can't play on the air, but some things are extremely funny. But I just want, Dennis, I want you to note a little piece of a sentence that Joe just said. He said, "You want to get down." You see that?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Put some bass music with
put a little
that.
bass music. Take that and work with it.
Yeah.
You want to get down.
You want to get
and
down.
then go repeat down. You see what I mean? Okay, you got that?
I'm on it, man.
All right, we'll share that with you as soon as
please do.
To take care of that. Another thing that we love sharing with you is our simple solution. Joe, what do you have for us?
All right, Danny, here's an effortless way to remove rust and corrosion from shovels, rakes, hose, trowels, any kind of garden hand tool. And here's what you do. Partially fill a bowl with white vinegar, just regular old distilled white vinegar, then plunge a cotton rag into the bowl to soak the rag, right? You want to get it, and I would use like an old towel works great, an old like terry cloth towel, something like that. So remove the sopping wet rag from the vinegar and wrap it around the rusty blade of the tool. And place the tool, then take it and wrap it in plastic just so it doesn't drip and evaporate so quickly. Seal it closed and leave it overnight. The next day, unwrap it, and then you can just use a stiff bristle nylon brush and some baking soda to scrub off the softened corrosion. Because what happens is that vinegar, which of course is acidic, will cut through and start to loosen some of that corrosion. And so you should be able to just brush it off. You can try a wire brush as well, but usually a nylon brush works. And when you're done, dry it really well and spray it with a little lubricant. That's it. You'll be surprised how much corrosion comes off just from that white vinegar.
Oh, that's great. And now it's time for our podcast question of the week. We'd love to get a question from you. Send us one. Today's homeowner.com/podcast. This one comes in from Marnie from Missouri. A subcontractor crew laid new flooring in my entire house. At the top of the stairs entrance, they left gaps between the flooring. They said it was there to allow for expansion. Shouldn't this have been done at the ends where it would be hidden under the baseboard? The warranty is gone. It looks like crap. The company won't help. What can I do? Well, Marnie, you're right. We do see the flooring there that appears to be a laminate floor or an LVT tile, and yes, you do need to leave some gaps on where it is on the baseboard. Traditionally, that will be covered by shoe molding that goes around. That way, when it does expand and contract with the changes in the weather, it won't buckle. But Joe, I cannot imagine someone leaving the gaps that I'm seeing in these pictures. It's just wrong. I mean, it's just there's no way around it. The installation is flawed.
Absolutely. Marnie sent a couple of photographs, and there's no reason to have a 1/4-inch gap between the ends of these planks. I mean, and to say that, oh, well, we need the expansion and contraction there. Well, that's not where it happens.
No.
It happens around the perimeter of the room, and as Danny said, it's hidden depending on if the baseboard's already up, then you leave it in place and you cut the flooring short and you cover that gap, that expansion gap with shoe molding. Or you run it to the wall, 1/4-inch short of the wall, and you put the baseboard on top of it. But now, what does she do now? That's the question. Well, I mean, there's not much you can do. I would try to tighten up those boards, move them to close up those gaps if you can. And then hopefully the space at the end will still be covered by the shoe molding or baseboard. I mean, I'm not sure how many of these gaps they left, but the bottom line is, yeah, that's installed incorrectly. You should never have a gap like that between the ends of a board and the middle of the floor.
Well, I sure hate to see things like that, and I hope that's the only places on the floor that you have that. I mean, you also hate to tell someone it's a nice place for a throw rug, but it could possibly be at the top of the stairs and things like that. But I'd also write a letter. I mean, you don't have to take inferior work like this. It's not up to industry standards. You're not happy with it, write a letter and ask them to correct it within 10 days and see if you can get some response. A lot of times when someone sees something in writing like that, it's a little more serious than just a conversation. And Marnie, I hate that you're going through this and all, but you got a good-looking floor there, just a little bit of a modification, and it will be up to those industry standards that you had expected. Again, sorry to hear that you're having those type of troubles, but let's do it right, guys. When you're out there doing work, let's make sure you do it right, and then everybody will be happy. That's the way it should be done. Hey, again, Marnie, thanks for sending this question in. And if you'd like to send us one, it's todayshomeowner.com/podcast. And again, appreciate all those great reviews we're getting. Keep them coming and keep downloading our podcast each and every week. I'm Danny Lipford along with my buddy Joe Truini. Thanks for listening to this Today's Homeowner Podcast.
You want to get down, down, down. Down, down. You want to get down.